This is Tonight. I'm Bruce Whitfield. We're in Cape Town this evening, and Cape Town kind of is the mother city of South African innovation. What is innovation? Is it anything more than art, or what happens when you create this wonderful alchemy? When you take the creativity, you add money to it, well, maybe you get a product at the end of the day. Kit van Zyl is one of the founders of Knife Capital. He is an investor in other people's bright ideas. We talk about innovation. We go Silicon Valley. We don't go Cape Town, Stellenbosch, Silicon Cape. Well, not yet anyway, Kit. What's our innovation like?
Oh, our innovations are great. We should be going Cape Town, Stellenbosch, Josie Hub, those kind of places. There's a lot happening here, but it is pockets of innovation. So I think where Silicon Valley have really done a great job in getting the ecosystem right. I mean, we are working hard at it as I guess, co-opetition, everyone in this innovation chain. But yeah, there's some good pickings if you know where to look.
What kind of innovations we looking at? I mean, one looks at the most high-profile ones, and there's been a lot of mobile money sort of stuff, cell phone banking, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think adversity or African problems create solutions. So that is the mother of invention. So that has really led to things like peer-to-peer lending, mobile money, nano credit, little pieces of lending. But even more interesting things like radar technology coming out of the defense systems. I mean, we've invested in one or two of those type of companies. And in the medical technology. So health tech is big worldwide. South Africa does have fantastic doctors and fantastic facilities, fantastic R&D stuff happening here, and those things are being monetized.
Okay, so there is monetization happening of this. I mean, you've got your genesis within HBD, Here Be Dragons, and that's Mark Shuttleworth's business as well. You worked for him for a while, and then you decided you'd be your own dragons and went independent. Yeah. Is he still an active investor in African and South African innovation?
He's quite active in Africa, specifically West Africa. South Africa, I guess the Reserve Bank must have ticked him off a little bit. But we still manage his portfolio. I mean, a venture capital investment has a long cycle. So you invest in the beginning, you help companies to grow internationally, you create knowledge, networks, so the funding is the window of opportunity, but once you've taken advantage of that window of opportunity, it's all about execution. So we help the companies execute. So I think from the HBD portfolio, I know we've got 3 companies left and doing quite well.
But it strikes me that there isn't much sort of consumer type of technology investment going on. It's not really business to consumer. You're not going to create another LinkedIn in South Africa, another Twitter or another Facebook, not necessarily, not one that's going to compete on a global scale. So your focus has to be on businesses serving businesses, B2B, I think they call it.
Yeah, I think one of the really great things about South Africa specifically is we've got a very well established financial services industry. We've got a very well developed stock exchange. We've got the big brand mining companies and consumer companies. So we see a lot of innovation in entrepreneurs where their first client would be some of those big businesses locally. Once you have those reference clients, you can then take that internationally. So we look generally from a Knife Capital perspective. We like businesses which is B2B2C, which is business to business, which ultimately serves a consumer problem or creates a solution.
I mean, we look at great South African innovators and we go Mark Shuttleworth, Elon Musk, Roelof Botha. Have we exported our best innovators?
I would hope not. No, I think some of our innovations, our best innovators knows the answer. They're here, but the market sometimes is not. So when you look at India, China, emerging markets, Brazil, but also US, Europe. So once you really start hitting a nerve, you almost not have to, but you almost, if you really want to kind of dominate the world, you need to look at where the larger markets are. If you look at Willem van Biljon, some of the stuff he's done, building the Amazon EC2 cloud and that kind of stuff. You can't really build that doing something locally, but
So how significant then is the innovation space in South Africa? If we're not big enough to be attractive to those markets, do we run the risk of becoming a parochial little backwater?
Well, no. I think we're becoming a very interesting research and development play. So there are a lot of interesting big brand companies, NASDAQ-listed companies that are looking at Africa, specifically South Africa, for research and development for emerging market economies. So ourselves.
You've sold businesses to the likes of General Electric and to Garmin and to others as well.
To Visa. Yeah, so we look at, I mean, that is our play, I guess, from an investor. The perfect scenario is looking at a business. We don't really invest at idea phase. We like businesses with a little bit of traction. So we sort of the growth equity fund that comes
So somebody's
in.
got a great idea, they've executed the idea, they need the capital to expand it. You step in there, help them grow, and then flog them to a global brand.
We feel there's a big gap there because entrepreneurs, with ideas, as we touched on in the beginning, ideas and creativity need to meet execution for it to really be innovation in my mind. So we kind of really want a little bit of traction there, and then we help with networks, knowledge funding to take the businesses. But yeah, and then ultimately it's a bit of a scientific approach to get on the radar screen of those companies. It's not a coincidence that a Visa or a Garmin kind of notices your company. You need to maybe steal a client of theirs, or maybe stalk them on LinkedIn, their directors, or just be awesome. I mean, there's no competitive kind of that's the competitive advantage.
Are we creating awesome here, though?
We are.
What is awesome? What is the most awesome thing that you've invested in the last 12 months that has got great potential?
Well, that's putting me on the spot. Some of the most awesome stuff we have invested in is company called FlightScope that does projectile tracking. So they do golf radar technology. So they took Doppler radar military technology and said, well, if you can measure a bullet, you can measure Ernie Els's golf ball when he hits it. So
Ernie Els is predictable. Someone like myself, would they be able to find the ball as it heads into the rough?
Yeah, I don't know. The radar can probably not go backwards, but so that's found a really good niche. So much so that we had to move the most of the company to Florida, but the R&D office and the manufacturing still happening in Stellenbosch. So I think you see a lot of that where the sales offices start moving into where the market is.
But that's the point, isn't it? We don't have markets. We don't have access to markets. And if you do come up with the great game-changing idea, at least part of you. Look at Elon Musk, for example. Here's Elon Musk, born in South Africa. He kind of distances himself from his past somewhat. But here's a guy who's been at the forefront of some of the greatest innovations in the world in the last 10 years.
It's because of, back to the whole concept of ecosystem, so innovation can't really happen in isolation. So you need an innovation chain. So once you start with your patents need to be protected, you need to come up with awesome ideas in the beginning, but then you need to be able to execute. There needs to be market for it, and from that perspective, you need support services. I mean, you can't necessarily build the electric car in Uitenhage just because there aren't that many innovations around battery systems or whatever you need to do that. So that's generally why you need to flock to an ecosystem, supportive ecosystem. And
are we developing an ecosystem? Because people have been talking about Silicon Cape, and I didn't see a sign anywhere saying this is Silicon Cape. But it's about like-minded people who are connecting, and you're in that world where lots of conversations happen. Are we creating an ecosystem?
That we are, definitely. So I think over the last 3 years, it really has been much more momentum. People are noticing worldwide. There's much more international business plan competitions and people sniffing around. I mean, we're meeting some real interesting corporate venture executives that come and hunt for M&A deals down here. But as an ecosystem, there's Silicon Cape, as you mentioned. There's organizations like Simadisa that really look at catalyzing and sort of inspiring entrepreneurship, telling the stories. So we need to make the entrepreneurs the heroes. I think we don't have, while we're very inventive as a nation, very creative, we don't have a culture of entrepreneurship where entrepreneurs are supported. Most parents would want their kids still to get that corporate job, and but it is changing. So the conversations are happening, the meetups are happening. The energy is there. I mean, there's something happening every week in specifically Cape Town. Joburg is coming on, Durban is coming on. So there are about 100 tech hubs in Africa, and those, it doesn't have to be technology, but technology is scalable. It's more difficult for young entrepreneurs to scale mining, except if it's a value chain component.
Sure. No, absolutely. I mean, capital is scarce. Capital is tough to get hold of, as you well know. Are you investing in innovators outside of South Africa on this continent? Are there the opportunities available to guys like you to say, "Ooh, there's some interesting stuff happening in Kenya, or there's some interesting stuff happening in Ghana"?
Yeah, so there is, mentioning Kenya and Ghana. So I mean, the venture or the innovation ecosystem is quite small. So we do actually collaborate. The Kenyan investors, Savannah Fund, those guys who are on the venture side, they are investing in Cape Town companies. On the Ghana side, so we do travel sort of almost in that little triangle,
Okay.
east, west, south, and there's opportunities to co-invest. There's some really good innovations. The brick sort of generator for internet connectivity out of the iHub in Kenya. So there are opportunities to cross invest, and we do as VC investors.
But one looks at the opportunities in South Africa, and just recently A.T. Kearney, the global consulting firm, came out with a report and it said this time last year South Africa sat at number 13 in terms of CEOs' perceptions of value in terms of foreign direct investment. 12 months later, for a myriad of reasons, ratings downgrades, lack of electricity, xenophobia, call it what you like, we're no longer in the top 25. Countries like Brazil and Mexico and China, so emerging markets are still up there. But we seem to have lost the plot a bit, have we?
Unfortunately, we have. I mean, if you look at also the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, looking at total early stage entrepreneurial activity, we're slipping as Africa, we're slipping as South Africa versus Sub-Saharan Africa peers. So there is definitely concern around innovation, around investment, around FDI flowing in. But again, that creates a scarcity, it creates adversity. So almost, it's a little bit counterproductive. It doesn't really maybe make sense from where you sit, but even during the 2008 downturn, entrepreneurship actually thrives in those things, because there's more people in the system that have to, out of necessity, do something, and they do.
I mean, you look at one of South Africa's greatest innovators, and it's not the kind of innovation that you would invest in, but Techie Town, Bram van Straten, quadrupled the size of his business post-2008, courtesy of having considerable courage when it comes to taking advantage of difficult scenarios. Because the contrast to that, of course, the A.T. Kearney report, is Lloyd Blankfein, the head of Goldman Sachs in South Africa in April, saying, you know what, this is a great place for investment. Are you finding still that there is appetite from clients of yours, like the General Electrics, like the Visas of the world, looking for new ideas, things that they're prepared to invest in? Yeah,
the world has changed in a way. There are more incubators, accelerators. Corporate venturing is a big space. So I think the corporates have figured out that really to innovate, they have to almost acqui-hire, they need to make acquisitions.
Acqui-hire?
It's when you look at a small team, 5 to 10 entrepreneurs doing some amazing stuff, and instead of trying to headhunt them, you just you acquire the company in a process of hiring the team. So it's called an acqui-hire.
Acqui-hire. That's a new one. That's a new one.
Yeah, exactly. So that is it's interesting.
Okay, so this is where we are at this point in time. You've got lots of capital. You're willing to commit it. You're looking for ideas and innovations. It's a small ecosystem, as you put it. A 5-year pipeline, is it looking good?
It's looking very good. I think entrepreneurs need to remember that most investments happen in network. So even the SAFCA, South African Venture Capital Association, looked at their members, and 93% of deals happen with people you know. So whether it's an angel investor or an early stage stuff. So I think one needs to just get involved. The pipeline's looking good. I think the supply of money is a bit of a problem. There's very little risk capital available. It's much easier, I guess, sticking your money in the stock exchange. But more and more people, Michael Jordan, a couple of those guys are really putting their money where their mouths are and backing South African innovation, and that's amazing for the space. Kip
van Zyl, thanks very much for coming in. Kip van Zyl is the co-founder of Knife Capital out of the HBD stable. Fascinating insights into the world of innovation, the fact that there is stuff going on. Yeah, we don't celebrate our innovators nearly enough. We know the guys who've made it big. We know the people who've moved offshore. But maybe you've got a neighbor you want to tell us about. Send us an email. Tell us about the innovation happening next door, not the illegal stuff. Good night.